how does this whole process of becoming a rancher and a steward just change your perspective on food in general and what real food actually is?
Mm. Wow, that's a great question. People always think it's such a complex answer when they're like, well, what's your diet? What do you eat? And I'm like, anything that can grow from the ground, anything that I can actually cultivate on the farm in season. But the aha moment for me, I mean, I was interested in cooking, I would say, when I started farming, especially. Like, I started to get a little interested in cooking in college when I realized I was just like bloated, blowing up with
Yeah.
beer and bread.
Beer and bread, that'll
And,
do it.
and yeah. And so I started cooking, and what was that diet that is, oh, it's like I can't remember the name of the diet, but I started doing this diet. Like, it wasn't Whole 30, but it was similar to that.
Yeah.
And started doing this diet and realized, wow, I feel a whole lot better. But all I was eating was vegetables, meat, you know, fruit occasionally. And I had more energy. My brain fog completely went away. I could sit in school longer, which was
Wow.
shocking. I was like, oh, maybe I can sit here if I feed my brain the right things.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A big part of something that I didn't realize till later. So my grandmother was very health conscious. She thought organic was cool way before anyone else did. And she was a vegetarian, but very low fat. And she ended up getting Alzheimer's in 2000. She was so healthy. She was fit.
Hmm.
She, practiced meditation back, and this is back in the 80s. I mean, this is not, it wasn't what it is
Well
now.
ahead of her time.
Yeah. And she got Alzheimer's, and I haven't studied it that much, but I do believe the lack of fat in her diet
Hmm.
contributed to the Alzheimer's. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to do a low fat diet. I want to do a real food diet. And then
Yeah.
I discovered slow food, which I don't know if you're familiar with slow food,
No, I'm
but
actually not familiar with it.
okay. So slow food is the movement started in Italy. Basically, this guy, they were putting a McDonald's in his town.
Hmm.
I think it was Torino, Italy, or something. You can fact check me. I don't. And
Checking
so
here.
yeah, they were putting a McDonald's in his town, and instead of just protesting, like being like, "We don't want McDonald's. We make fresh food, and we grow our own food, and meats and vegetables are healthy," he sat in the streets and gathered people with bowls of fresh made pasta and just said, we're going to eat real food, slow food, not this fast food that you're bringing to our town. And it created this whole movement. And I connected with that really well because I just connect with real food.
Hmm.
Like Michael Pollan was talking about, eat real food.
I love that. That's the most Italian story of all time, by the way, and I absolutely love it.
I know.
I really appreciate what you said too. And I appreciated, I was actually laughing at your comment before. You were like, I don't know how you feel about vegetables on carnivore. And Harry and I have, I know the meat mafia is like a very off-putting name, and you're like, these guys are probably carnivore. And I have so much admiration and respect for the carnivore diet. And honestly, when I was chronically inflamed like I was, I really just needed a red meat bone broth removal diet to just get the inflammation out of my system. But I think this concept of carnivore versus vegan is really just the wrong battle. And it's like we
Mm,
should all be uniting against big food and industrial food and like connecting with your local rancher. And what I try and say is like anything that's grown on your farm, I think as a consumer, you should do the research and the experimentation on like what combination of those foods work best with your body. Where like now my stomach is so permeable where if I want to have some amazing vegetables that Pavel is growing with some steak, I can do that, but maybe sometimes I'll just have steak, or maybe some people are a little bit more plant-based. Like I'm trying to get out of the dogma of a one size fits all approach and just be like, you know what? If you can just develop that intuition, buy real food from a farm, figure out what makes sense for you, regardless of how much meat or not you're eating, you're going to be so much better off than someone on an industrial food diet.
so true. You said it perfectly. I completely agree with listen to your intuition, listen to your gut, if you will,
Yes.
and it'll tell you what makes you feel good.